Katherine Aguon, a longtime educator, former senator, former director of the Department of Education, and retired professor at the University of Guam. Dr. Aguon, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you? I'm humbled, and it's an honor again to be able to sit here with you, a pioneer of again education here in Guam, and most especially the Chamorro language. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you too for inviting me.
It's good to see you. Let's go back to Chamorro studies. We had spoken actually prior to your coming on the show tonight about the inception of Chamorro-ness and Chamorro studies in the schools. I remember when I was going to school, I graduated in '73. I think the preview to Chamorro studies was Exploring Guam, which was an elective back then. But in 1974, right?
Yes.
It was instilled in public schools. You're one of the pioneers. Please.
That's right. You know, in 1974, when I became director of education, there wasn't any Chamorro program, and it kind of bothered me because I always felt that you have to teach the indigenous language to perpetuate the culture and to teach and impart on the students the value system of the indigenous people. So it was very hard for me because back then the people were lukewarm to installing Chamorro in the classroom.
As a matter of fact, you were met with resistance. Yes,
yes, because they always taught, especially the elder people, that you have to teach them more English.
Okay.
So it was an innovative approach that I did. I just wanted to ask the people, and I said, this is important. So, my goodness, there were a lot of letters to the editors, they said, no. We don't want Chamorro in the classroom. We want better English teaching because, we want our students to be prepared in the English-speaking world. But I did it anyway. I installed the elementary Chamorro in 1974.
And here we are today. But they're still definitely met with challenges that we have. Still a lot of things that need to be done to enhance, again, the teaching of our Chamorro culture. Like you said in the very beginning, you were met with a lot of resistance. I went to school in the area. You taught with my mom. I started school in Sinani Elementary, and I didn't know how to speak English, and Mom purposely did not want to teach us English. She knew that we will speak English when we got to school, but she wanted the language to continue on, the Chamorro language. So we were taught English when we got into the school setting, but once we got into the school setting, we would get in trouble if we were to speak, of course, in Chamorro.
Chamorro.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about, again, in 1974. Did a part of that resistance, Dr. Aguon, come from the fact that it was instilled in teachers and also students to continue, again, with the English language and be more proficient with the English language, that now it was it seen as moving backwards?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I think that was a very, very good philosophy because actually it was changing. At first there was the drive to speak English fluently and speak like an American, like an English speaking, and those students who speak well in classrooms, they are always ahead in terms of grades because they speak good English. And then about 1974, I think even back in the States, there was a movement, for the indigenous language, free speech movement.
Sure.
They want to speak their language.
And you were a part of that movement.
Absolutely.
UC Berkeley.
Oh, UC Berkeley. I really didn't know even what I was when I went there because my ethnicity was not very clear in terms of being an American all the time. We were, right after the war, we were nationals, American nationals.
Yeah, okay.
And then we went into Guamanians and, never Chamorro. But Chamorro came in toward the end during the movement in the,
So what was that then, the genesis, the awakening of Dr. Katherine Aguon?
Yes.
Yeah.
I went there to study not linguistics or not language, to study curriculum and instruction for my doctorate. And I came across, I happened to be there at this very active institution with a lot of diversity, and they will meet in the corner to plan, for example, the march to go against the march. This was during the Vietnam War in the 70s. You know, the time of the free speech movement. Angela Davis, the activist from UCLA.
Flower power.
Oh yes, absolutely. I learned a lot. Actually, so they were planning their march against the ROTC building on campus, and they were planning the strategy in their language. So I sat around, I said, what about me? She said, well, what do you speak? I said, Chamorro, we call it Chamorro. And they said, well, we don't understand you. I was left so out of place. And it was fun to be in Berkeley, to be an indigenous person.
So you were a minority amongst minorities.
Absolutely. So I decided then that when I get back home, I am going to study the language, because I really didn't know too much about the language, Chamorro language. So I did, thanks to the late Dr. Topping. He had written a very good book, the Chamorro reference grammar. They did a dictionary, but I poured my heart into his Chamorro reference grammar, and that's how I learned how to write Chamorro constructively, as you would in English, and I learned, the basic skills. So I pushed for it when I became Director of Education in 1974.
There we go. Hey, now we find out Dr. Aguon was a flower child. Anyway, hey, we're going to pause for the cause right now. Come back and talk more with Dr. Katherine Aguon and the genesis of, again, the instruction of Chamorro language within our schools, our public schools.